What's up, everybody? Good afternoon. I hope you guys are doing well. If I look a little weird, it's because I'm trying to play with the lighting a little bit with my videos, trying to get this green screen thing a little more refined. So let me know if you guys think it looks better or worse. I'm just messing around with some lighting settings, trying to figure out how to get this to look a little better. But we are not here to talk about that. We are here to talk about another weekly accolade. Third week in a row, the Seahawks have won some kind of weekly accolade. This time, it's NFC Defensive Player of the Week. It goes to, I think we saw this one coming. This one was clear and obvious. Devon Witherspoon has been named NFC Defensive Player of the Week. That's for the entire conference, and that's for all players on defense. So it's not just rookies, although he is overwhelmingly likely to also win Rookie of the Week awards. Pepsi does their Rookie of the Week award thing, and I'm sure he's going to win that. I mean, if he's the best player in the NFC on all of defense, then he's probably the best Rookie of the Week as well. So I'm sure he's going to do that. So congratulations to him. Excellent performance by him. I don't think this should come as a shock to anybody how well he played, how well he performed winning this award. By the way, the Seahawks have now had a player win Defensive Player of the Week in the NFC 2 years in a row because Rico did it last year as a rookie and now Witherspoon doing it. That is the first time. This article actually goes into a little bit of detail here. The last time a Seahawks rookie defender won NFC Defensive Player of the Week, it was Michael Boulware almost 20 years ago, 2004. So this doesn't happen that often. Usually they give it to the veterans. Usually Defensive Player of the Week goes to a player who's a little more established, a player who's more suited to have snap to snap dominance, which tells you how incredibly good we have it with these rookies right now. This article breaks down the exact numbers: 7 tackles, and they're good tackles. They're not just like tackles 40 yards down the field. They are tackles that are limiting the opposing offense. They are tackles that are quickly bringing plays to a halt. They are meaningful tackles. 2 sacks, 3 hits on Daniel Jones, 4 total pressures according to PFF. He had 2 tackles for loss, I believe the 2 sacks. He had 1 PBU, and of course the game-flipping, game-changing interception. He played every snap on defense. There's really no contest here. I don't know who else you would even consider giving it to. I guess maybe Harrison Smith would be the only other guy who you could even consider. And Harrison Smith did not single-handedly flip the game the way that Devon Witherspoon did. He did not single-handedly end the game the way that Witherspoon did. So congratulations to the rookie. He certainly deserves it. But let's talk about some bigger picture things from this game as well. So first, I want to quickly talk about his utilization in this game because I think this is pretty key, pretty important here to understand. I have here his PFF page, game by game. 60 of Witherspoon's snaps this game came in the slot. Only 11 came as an outside corner. He had 3 in the box, 1 on the defensive line. So there was some consternation this offseason about the idea of playing Witherspoon in the slot. Some people were thinking, well, you're not going to get you're not going to get your bang out of the buck for him, or your bang out of your buck. So a lot of people said we can't put him at slot. We wasted our top five pick if we play him as a slot corner. That doesn't make any sense. And here's the bottom line. Here's what I'm going to say about this. Get your best players on the field in some capacity. Don't worry too much about, this guy needs to play here to be worth it. At the end of the day, you're just trying to get your best players out on the field at all times. And right now, I think that if you want to get your best players out on the field at all times, it means putting Witherspoon in at slot so that when Trey Brown gets back, you can put him outside. Because as much as we all talk about Trey Brown being a slot corner, he hasn't really done it at the NFL level all that much yet, I don't think. In fact, I don't know if he's ever lined up at slot. But if he has, it's been very little, and there's every reason to believe he's probably better as an outside cornerback than a slot corner. So if you want to get your best players out on the field, you put Witherspoon in slot on nickel, and then you let Trey Brown play outside. And I hope what he did in this game is educational to some people that, yeah, there's probably a little more value to playing outside than inside in the NFL at corner, but at the end of the day, you're just trying to get him on the field as much as you can, and he's going to do stuff. And there are going to be games where maybe you decide you're not going to do that. Maybe there are going to be some games where you're like, okay, we need Witherspoon on the outside against this receiver, because maybe this team doesn't have a great slot corner, but they have great slot receivers, but they have great outside receivers. Like when we play the Eagles, they've got AJ Brown and they've got Freeman. You might not want to be playing Witherspoon in the slot against Olamide Zaccheaus, I think his name is. So then, yeah, but generally speaking, a lot of these NFL teams have great slot receivers. So you leave Witherspoon in the slot, you're going to get your money's worth still, because at the end of the day, the goal is just to get him out there. So just wanted to go ahead and talk about that a little bit. But now let's go a little bigger picture than even that. Now that that's out of the way, just kind of talking about the whole usage of Witherspoon. Was this game the greatest game that any Seahawks cornerback has played in the history of the franchise? The Hawks Nest broached this topic last night in our stream, and I wanted to look into it just a little bit here. And this is kind of hard to do. A lot of the players who are considered great Seahawks cornerbacks historically are guys who have been guys who played a long time ago, back when the stat keeping was not as good, who were playing before I was born. So it's really hard to know sometimes. But if you take a look at what Witherspoon did, we already went over the numbers, the tackles, and like I said, they're good tackles. You can actually go back here and see that 3 of his tackles were construed as a stop by PFF. So what that means is that they were meaningful tackles. They were tackles that stopped the offense for a relatively short gain. He had 4 QB pressures to go with his 2 sacks. He was incredibly impactful in run defense as well. We all know this. He allowed 19 yards in coverage on 4 targets, less than 5 yards a target for a cornerback. I know it's a slot corner, so it's a little different, but even when he allowed completions, they were not big, meaningful completions. They were short completions that, in many ways, the scheme is to blame for allowing more so than the player. Is that the best game any Seahawks cornerback has ever had? Richard Sherman is undisputedly, no doubt about it, the best cornerback in Seahawks franchise history. He had several games in his career where he had 2 interceptions. He had one game where he had 2 interceptions, including a touchdown. He had a game where he had 2 interceptions, a touchdown, and a fumble recovery. That was that game against the Cardinals in 2012 where we won 58-0. You can't really say that what Richard Sherman did in that game was hugely impactful because we won by literally 58 points. But that was probably the best game of Sherman's career. He was never really a sack guy. He was never really a QB pressure guy. He has 2 sacks in his entire career. So literally, Witherspoon had as many sacks on Monday as Sherman did in his entire career. So that's not really his game. Big time run support and a lot of tackling. Sherman was a very good tackler. It's hard to say if any of these games he had a bigger impact on the Seahawks run defense than Witherspoon did yesterday. He did have this one game where he had 2 picks, 8 tackles. Seahawks still lost, by the way. I remember that game as well. But yeah, Witherspoon's game on Monday may have been better than any Sherman game. After Sherman, you're probably looking at a guy like a Dave Brown as being one of the best Seahawks cornerbacks ever, made a Pro Bowl, won a Super Bowl for another team. But you take a look at his best games ever. He had quite a few actually, with 2 interceptions. He had one where he had 2 touchdowns returned. So that's got to be up there. Now, this game was played in 1984, before the NFL was really doing a good job keeping track of stats like, sacks, like tackles, coverage numbers were, forget about it, right? You're not going to get those. So it's really hard to know. But Dave Brown's game against Kansas City in 1984 probably has to be up there as well. That's at least part of the conversation. 148 return yards on 2 interceptions is maybe, that's got to be an all-timer. That's got to be right up there with the all-time legends of the position. And he actually had a lot of games where he had 2 interceptions, more than even Sherman in his career. One of them was or 2 of them, were for Green Bay. But regardless, still really good Seahawks cornerback. After Dave Brown, you're probably looking at Marcus Trufant. He had his legendary game back in '07 with the 3 interceptions, including the touchdown. He threw in 6 tackles. Again, we don't have coverage numbers for games back then. We don't have pressure numbers. It's just too old. We can't really know exactly how impactful he was, but 3 interceptions, including a touchdown, is hard to top. This was a game we won by 3 touchdowns, same as what we did against the Giants on Monday night. So maybe this one. It's certainly not as multifaceted as the Witherspoon game, I think. You had Patrick Hunter. He was another great Seahawks cornerback. He was another guy who was right up there on the all-time list if you're looking for all-time great Seahawks corners. He never had a multi-interception game, actually, in his entire career, even when he was playing for other teams. All he had were a bunch of games where he had 1 interception. He had one game where he had a pick six. Seahawks still lost back in '91. And again, these games are just kind of old. It's hard to really know if these games were better. We don't even have tackle data for a lot of these games. Dwayne Harper is another one. Dwayne Harper had some pretty nice games for the Seahawks. He had a 3 interception game as a Charger, though. He did have one 2 interception game as a Seahawk back in 1991. But again, we just need more information, and we just don't have it. We don't have the information required to really understand, was this guy as good, as valuable, as powerful, as impactful as Witherspoon? But I'm inclined to believe Witherspoon's game is, it's not worse than any of these games, right? Like you can say, oh, Sherman had 3 intercept. I mean, I keep messing up names in this video. My bad. Trufant had 3 interceptions in a game. That's better, maybe. Dave Brown had 2 pick-sixes in a game. That's better, maybe. But we're able to see so much more of the game because of advanced metrics on Witherspoon. We're able to see that he allowed all of 19 yards in coverage on 4 targets. We're able to see how impactful he was as a tackler and a run stopper. We're able to watch the game in high def and see all the things that he's doing. And it's tough to top. So what do you guys think? Best game by a cornerback in Seahawks franchise history? What do you got? See you guys later. Go Hawks. Another video coming later.